Are you ever scrolling through your Instagram or TikTok feed at 2 a.m. and you see a video of some dude having the time of his life in an SVJ with 4 girls in the passenger seat, and he also just happens to be ripped and have connections to Drake? And then you zoom out and introspect. I don't have an SVJ. I don't have 4 girls in my passenger seat. I'm not ripped. And hell, I don't even know Drake that well. You think, okay, I'm gonna lock in and tomorrow I'm gonna start pursuing my goals. This is called motivation. And sometimes that motivation lasts and sometimes it doesn't. But what if I told you that 1 year from today, a hitman was gonna put a bullet through your head unless you made $1 million before then? You will feel more inclined to make that money than you do right now because of that thing called motivation. Motivation at its core is your desire or willingness to do something. And for most people, their motivators are terrible and lead you to having no desire or willingness to put in the work to anything. Because let's say you didn't make that million in a year. Well, nothing's going to happen because there's no hitman that's going to kill you. So that comfort tells you, yeah, I can try, I guess, but it really doesn't matter if I fail. And does it sound like you care that much about something if that's your mindset about it? Because even if you think that, what if 1 year from today you get into a car accident and you need $1 million for the medical bills and physical therapy? Or you get some terrible disease that drains your bank account that you aren't aware of? You aren't aware that that is going to happen. But now that hitman is back, but you don't have that motivation like he is there. That type of motivation is based on the fact that you know that there's a limited amount of time to do something, which is why it's easier to get a homework assignment done last minute instead of a few days before, because as you approach that deadline, the threat of it gets greater and greater, and thus your motivation gets greater and greater. I have pretty immense ADHD, and I can verify that this is something that I am terrible with. This is also because cortisol and adrenaline spike because of the flight or flight response reaction being triggered by the deadline closing in, which increases short-term focus by a lot. But I'm not saying to wait until the last minute, I'm just saying why it happens. Now I want you to close your eyes. No, really close them, because you need to do this for it to work. I'm serious. Alright, good. Now that your eyes are closed, imagine you were laying on your deathbed after a long life of being mediocre with a few good memories to look back on. But then your grandson walks up to your bed and says, Grandpa, if you could go back in time to when you were younger, how would you have lived your life different? Suddenly you're filled with regret of all the places you wanted to go but never could have, and all the things you wanted to try but that will never happen because your life is about to be over. But then an angel comes to your bedside and says to you, I'm giving you a second chance to relive your life from when you were younger. When you open your eyes, you will be youthful again. Now I want you to open your eyes. Your wish has been granted. You are younger again and have all the opportunities in the world that your dying self wished to have. This type of motivation is called anticipatory regret. It's why you get the fear of missing out on things, or FOMO. And if you think about it, life itself is an opportunity, and to waste it would be leaving yourself with the regret of wasting the biggest opportunity ever presented to you. Our most common type of motivator is, as most of you know, material motivation from things like cash, cars, houses, and other things. And it isn't inherently bad to be motivated by material stuff because it gives you achievements to work towards, to measure your success. But the issue is whenever someone thinks about driving their dream car or sees someone with their dream body, they will get a lot of motivation that will last about 5 minutes because this type of motivation normally dies out very quick. On top of this, we don't want to get richer for ourselves, but for the stuff we can buy. We don't want to get jacked to be healthy. We want to be jacked because we can have more confidence and pull badder bitches. I mean, more respectful women. But changing the motivation to I want to get richer because I will learn a lot on the journey and be more humble, or I will work out more so my body will be healthier, makes the motivation last longer because it's not just something material that you're after. But you know what's more powerful than motivation for yourself? Motivation for other people you care about. If you are poor, and maybe you are, and you live alone, you will be moderately motivated to go get money and move to a better house. Now what if you live with your older mother who lived in the same house as you and feels miserable with how damp it is in there and how the house is falling apart and how there's no air conditioning and how y'all can barely afford to eat? I guarantee you will be a lot more motivated to move out for your mother's sake than your own. My grandpa is in his final stages of his life right now, and my dad isn't even able to visit him because he just got a new job and doesn't want to take that much time off. Do you know how sad I will be if I'm 50, still working, and I can't visit my dying dad because I need to pay my bills? That motivates me 10 times more than any car that I could buy or watch that I could own. Or what if you were pregnant or get a girl pregnant with your son by accident, and let's say abortion isn't an option? You're going to immediately start thinking farther ahead and planning out how you can make money to afford the kid so that he can have a better life. You care a lot more about other people than you think because you know how much you can mentally bear, but assume responsibility for other people and that other people are weaker than you are. So you take the initiative way quicker for the sake of other people that you care about. Now let's say you didn't have a baby due in 5 months, but you still had a clock to something, like we mentioned earlier. I saw a joke that says guys buy more expensive cars so that they are forced to make more money to afford them. And that's obviously a joke and bad financial advice, but deep down it might work because you would constantly be uncomfortable knowing that you owe the bank $2,000 at the end of the month, and you would be thinking about it until you made enough money to pay it off. I saw a video talking about the greatest motivator for people with ADHD, but I think this applies to basically everyone. They said the greatest motivator is spite, as in getting back at people who have wronged you, like people who didn't believe in you, or an ex-boyfriend/girlfriend. And I can attest that whenever I'm slacking, knowing that I have roughly the same amount of money in in my bank account as all my exes, and I can't drive past their house in a Ferrari pisses me off and gives me motivation. And I want everyone listening to this to pick one person you want to see turn on the TV one day in their miserable lives and see you getting interviewed for whatever you accomplished in life, sitting there in regret and jealousy of how your life turned out. This also works with rivalries or things that you were training for by turning them into a competition. Next time you're at your place of work or in class, you need to think about how you were way better and will do better than everyone else in the room, and you need to take that motivation and actually use it to get there. All of those are classified as extrinsic motivation, meaning they are motivators from outside yourself. But what works even better than that is intrinsic motivation. Why do you think musical artists sound better before they are famous, or football players play way better before their come up? But both of those groups of people might get lazy once they make it, because at first they are motivated by their passions, but once they made it, that motivation turned into motivation from the money. They are still motivated, but by a weaker force. Now, I'm not saying you have to pretend to be very interested in calculus in order to actually lock in and study for it, but when you are doing the homework for it, maybe tell yourself you're doing it to understand it, not because the homework's deadline, and you will retain a lot more information from it. Another major motivator is identity or meaning. Why do you go to church if you do? Because it's a part of who you are and your personal relationship with your religion and God. If you like to travel places but need to work to make the money to travel places, don't think of the money as the motivation. Think of the ability to travel and explore your interests and identity as the opportunity that comes from working and making the money. On top of that, you should be doing something solely because you enjoy them or you think would be good for you, like going on walks or hanging out with your friends. Because what's the point of being motivated to get anything done if you lose yourself along the way? Then you're just a shell of someone who has more material stuff than you once did, which is why it's important to keep intrinsic motivators around and do stuff like work on your interest, your mind, and your body. But the greatest motivator of all time isn't even a motivator. And if you have ever listened to David Goggins speak, you will know where this is going. Do you think when David was running 50 miles and he was at mile 20 and his legs were breaking and his lungs were swelling and he wanted to pass out, do you think that he had motivation then? No, the fuck he didn't. He had the only thing better. Discipline. Motivation comes and goes, and if you need to rely on motivation to get everything done, you're going to fail because this shit isn't for you. You need to be disciplined in any way you can. That means studying even if you're tired. That means working out even when you don't feel like it. That means giving your all to everything you do without the need of motivation. This can come however you want to, like making a schedule or devoting parts of your day to stuff or setting hard deadlines. Doing things like eating junk food and scrolling on TikTok and watching motivational videos is bad for you because it gives you the gratification of completing something without the work. So you need more delayed gratification from things like eating better, going to the gym, and setting long-term goals. And I need you to feel useless and lazy every time you're sitting down on your phone scrolling on TikTok, because if you're 100% disciplined, there is 100% something way better that you could be doing with your time. And until you reach that 100% discipline level, you need to never be comfortable with where you are and put in the work and stop relying on random YouTube or TikTok rants about motivation to suddenly do some magic and hack your brain into suddenly being productive. That's the secret. Give up the ego and the reliance on motivation and discipline yourself and do the fucking work. Motivation is unreliable. Pressure can spark action. Identity sustains it, and discipline makes it permanent. Also, subscribe to me.